red brick and balanced as the other major buildings, but with a large cupola and a bell and a clock and Latin over the doorway, the First Academy building. In through the swinging doors I reached a marble foyer and stopped at the foot of a long, white marble flight of stairs. Although they were old stairs, the worn moons in the middle of each step were not very deep. The marble must be unusually hard. That seemed very likely, only too likely, although with all my thought about these stairs, this exceptional hardness had not occurred to me. It was surprising that I had overlooked that crucial fact. There was nothing else to notice. They, of course, were the same stairs I had walked up and down at least once every day of my Devon life. They were the same as ever. And I? Well, naturally I felt older. I began at that point the emotional examination to note how far my convalescence had gone. I was taller, bigger generally in relation to these stairs. I had more money and success and security than in the days when specters seemed to go up and down them with me. I turned away and went back outside. The far common was still empty, and I walked alone down the wide gravel paths among those most Republican, bankerish of trees, New England elms, toward the far side of the school. Devon is sometimes considered the most beautiful school in New England, and even on this dismal afternoon its power was asserted. It is the beauty of small areas of order, a large yard, a group of trees, 3 similar dormitories, a circle of old houses living together in contentious harmony. You felt that an argument might begin at any time. In fact, it had. Out of the dean's residence, a pure and authentic colonial house, there now sprouted an L with a big bare picture window. Someday the dean would probably live entirely encased in a house of glass and be happy as a sandpiper. Everything at Devon slowly changed and slowly harmonized with what had gone before. So it was logical to hope that since the buildings and the deans and the curriculum could achieve this, I could achieve, perhaps unknowingly already had achieved, this growth and harmony myself. I would know more about that when I had seen the second place I had come to see. So I roamed on past the balanced red brick dormitories with webs of leafless ivy clinging to them, through a ramshackle salient of the town which invaded the school for 100 yards, past the solid gymnasium, full of students at this hour, but silent as a monument on the outside, past the field house, called the Cage. I remember now what a mystery references to the Cage had been during my first weeks at Devon. I had thought it must be a place of severe punishment, and I reached the huge open sweep of ground known as the playing fields. Devon was both scholarly and very athletic, so the playing fields were vast and, except at such a time of year, constantly in use. Now they reached soggily and emptily away from me. Forlorn tennis courts on the left, enormous football and soccer and lacrosse fields in the center, woods on the right, and at the far end a small river detectable from this distance by the few bare trees along its banks. It was such a gray and misty day that I could not see the other side of the river, where there was a small stadium. I started the long trudge across the fields, and had gone some distance before I paid any attention to the soft and muddy ground, which was dooming my city shoes. I didn't stop. Near the center of the fields there were thin lakes of muddy water, which I had to make my way around, my unrecognizable shoes making obscene noises as I lifted them out of the mire. With nothing to block it, the wind flung wet gusts at me. At any other time, I would have felt like a fool slogging through mud and rain, only to look at a tree. A little fog hung over the river, so that as I neared it, I felt myself becoming isolated from everything except the river and a few trees beside it. The wind was blowing more steadily here, and I was beginning to feel cold. I never wore a hat and had forgotten my gloves. There were several trees bleakly reaching into the fog. Any one of them might have been the one I was looking for. Unbelievable that there were other trees which looked like it here. It had loomed in my memory as a huge, lone spike dominating the riverbank, forbidding as an artillery piece, high as the beanstalk. Yet here was a scattered grove of trees, none of them of any particular grandeur. Moving through the soaked, coarse grass, I began to examine each one closely, and